think the key is that there is no one model. There's a shared purpose and an approach that brings us all together. And the heart of the idea is that it takes everyone to change systems and enable ultimately all kids to fulfill their potential. So, at the heart of it is the idea that local people deeply rooted in their own local context and culture need to be the one to change their systems. And each of these organizations in 60 countries in the network are thinking through, how do we make an intentional effort to cultivate the locally rooted leadership we need? And then what we've also learned is that those local leaders can move a lot faster if they're able to learn from each other across all their different contexts. And that's another, I think, advantage of the global network, is that it enables both the cultivation of locally rooted leaders and it enables those leaders to be globally informed. It's really interesting because it's so true that there's such diversity in the world in terms of cultures and contexts. But what we've learned together across Teach for All is that the roots of the inequities we're addressing are eerily similar from place to place. I mean, to the extent that we could really articulate one theory of the problem, whole segments of kids in every country face a lot of extra challenges, go to school systems that don't even have as many resources and are simply not equipped to meet the extra needs of their students. And then there's this kind of prevailing ideology of low expectations for those groups of kids. So that is the circumstance in my country, in Uganda, in Peru, and in Italy, no doubt. So I think initially that realization was really depressing, because you start realizing we're fighting the forces of gravity everywhere, until we realized what it also means is that the solutions are much more shareable than we've ever assumed in education. In a way, I think the circumstances of the most marginalized students who we're working with in all these different countries are more similar to each other across borders than to the more privileged kids in their countries. I think one of our learnings over time is that unless students feel safe and supported, they'll never learn, and they won't be able to live into their full potential. And as we've looked at what is it that enables students to what fosters their well-being, we've realized it's so much about the teacher's own well-being. If teachers are feeling safe and supported and well, then they're much more likely to foster that in their students. And then in turn, we've realized it takes us on the staff of these organizations to also take care of ourselves in order to foster teachers' well-being and in turn students' well-being. So it's a big virtuous cycle, I think. I'm so inspired by Teach for Italy. Everything from launching really in the height of the pandemic, when all the eyes of the world were on Northern Italy, and to see that nonetheless Teach for Italy was able to marshal the resources and energy and people to launch, to meet your incredible inaugural cohort and just sense their passion and reflectiveness and insightfulness. To see then the second cohort, twice the size and equally committed. I'm just so excited to see what you all will all do together with such deep commitment to addressing the inequities, and deep kind of passion and perseverance, which is what this work takes. I think think what we've seen is that the world that awaits our students is so uncertain and so full of challenge that I don't think there's an alternative but to prepare students to navigate that. The other thing I've seen is that students are ready to lead. I mean, this is the key to their engagement and motivation. They want to solve the climate challenge. They want to be part of changing their schools. And so it's such an asset to come at it from that perspective and leverage their leadership and almost use that as the entryway to foster their academic learning as well.